Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Witcher Bloodletting, Session 13, Broken Pact. And this is part 3 out of 5 for the session. So, you guys are on the road and making your way back there. Just to represent your travel from point A to point B, could you just make me a survival check there, Bastion, because I think you're the... No. It's actually Tal, I think it's the best of survival, isn't it? But you have advantage because of everybody else's assistance and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm. Let's roll another natty one. My rolls are taking a hit today.
Okay, cool. So you guys are able to make your way back there, avoiding more or less troubles that, like, you do get bumped into a couple little things on the way that you easily overcome, and you see another caravan, but nothing really worth noting. Oh, Jesus. So nothing really worth noting for the trek. And it gets you back to Curious in the same amount of time it usually does. What's it called?
Joked on beating the shit out of that guy. I'm talking about it the whole way.
So when you guys finally get back to Curious, talking about beating his ass the whole while, you eventually get back there, and because of, like, the way that times usually go, traveling from one location to the next, I always described it before, and as you're kind of like getting there late in the day, because you travel like a little weird and probably planned accordingly, you're actually going to end up getting there about midday, allowing you to easily meet up with Malvoon on this day, before you end up having to continue further and further and further. So when you get back there, making audience with him is pretty quick. You'll actually meet with him in his home. So he does invite you into his home, same as before. And seeing the fact that you guys are all back and everything, he kind of just assumes things are going well. So he actually seems, it's not like he's a big emotional person anyways, but he seems generally happy to have you guys there. Sorry, my phone's going off. So you guys make your way in. He invites you in. And same as before, he kind of gestures for you guys to have a seat. And he actually offers for you guys to have a drink as well.
Okay. I will happily have a drink with him.
I'll take a drink.
Sure. Do you guys kind of like go over and expect him to like pour you a drink? Does everybody pour their own drinks, or how does it kind of play out?
I'm pouring my own.
I use Mage Hand to pour my own. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
Tal's gonna stand there with his arms crossed.
Is Malvoon like not near the drinks? Is he like, oh, behind you, there's drinks on the other side of the room that I'm not near?
It is the other side of the room. He's not directly near it or anything like that. So he is gesturing for you guys to like take a seat and like you can have a drink as well. It didn't look like he was reaching for one. So
does he want Malvoon? Do you want a drink?
He kind of like looks at when you ask that. It almost changes the tone for a second, like he's thinking maybe he misunderstood how things had gone, and he's like, perhaps I should. More
it's
of
a time for celebration, I guess.
Once again, my apologies.
Yeah, go ahead.
That once again cuts it back. It's almost like a seesaw of emotions or a roller coaster of emotions. It cuts it back the other way, and he's like, then celebrate we will. And
all right.
You pour a drink for him, for yourself. You guys get your own drinks except for Tal, and it's one of those like. He says, to the defeat of the basilisks and the retention of one?
About that.
Cheers anyway.
To the defeat of the basilisks.
He sighs and takes a sip of the drink and, puts it down in front of him and takes a seat. And I imagine everybody takes a seat as well, except for Tal, who's standing there with his arms folded. Okay. So, he says, tell me. Details.
Actually, I want to know something from you, Malvoon. If that is your real name. No, I'm kidding. What is your fascination with keeping this basilisk alive? Like, we've seen nothing but death and destruction from it, and yet you still seem to want them.
You see, it's not a matter of the basilisk specifically. It's a matter of researching, of progressing research.
Surely having something as dangerous as a Medusa basilisk would be, a little off-putting maybe to you? Like, you don't see any problem there?
Not if certain safeguards are put in place, no.
Anyway.
I can also imagine that you don't often get the opportunity to crossbreed like this.
It's
very often.
something that's my research has never shown to be successful in the past. This was a kind of a breaking thing that was happening, and unfortunately, they all lay to rest. But research can still be done from what had happened in the past, and I don't think I'm going to be able to replicate this without that source still alive. But here we are. The research can be had.
Replicate?
It will not be able to be replicated.
You wanted to?
To a small degree, for the sake of further research, but not until after I fully understand what it was that had happened in the past.
Maybe we should stop talking about it.
Well, either way, it's not feasible. Intended or otherwise, it's not feasible.
Right. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that, he says, and once again, more of a sullen sip as opposed to one that he enjoys.
I'll ignore it.
Well, you've brought me back bits that I could at least do my research with.
I've probably got like a few that would when we.
But do we want
I
to
have
give
a
him?
belt.
I would be
belt?
willing to give them. I don't know if.
Oh yeah, we did
I'd
get a
rather
belt.
keep the. Yeah,
I didn't say
took
that. I'm
Belt,
sorry, I was talking to Meta.
Okay,
I took this belt specifically for my own research on it.
okay.
so
So you want to offer? So you guys more or less offer like little. So unless you say no to this too, you offer little bits like things that are cinematic and not valuable.
You would probably show some of your potion ingredients and such.
Yeah.
That you took
Yeah,
because you're witches.
I would at
That's
least
fine.
offer them up.
How much
but
XP do we
stop
lose?
me.
No, cinematic, not actual value is what I imagine.
Oh, okay.
Because everybody was being rather defensive with what they wanted to do, anyways.
Right,
So,
right.
so that's fine. So he takes the things from you and is appreciative of it, and says, "Well then, I suppose that concludes that bit. Let's move on to other details then. First and foremost, did you procure the blood that was required?
Yes, we did.
It's a lot harder to
Eventually.
get than you would think.
It was not that hard.
It was
But you procured it. It's fresh, fresh enough.
Yes.
about a day and a half, yeah.
We got plenty. It's not entirely pure, but that should be no problem to you.
Honestly, you guys could have even done a little bit of separation of it yourself. Like I mentioned, your tools before and things that you have. You could have even done a small degree of affecting it yourself on the way to give him a better version. And so, how you collected it off of the ground and off of Bastion's hand and all that, more or less everywhere that you could. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you present it to him, and he goes, he like holds it in his hands, mumbles to himself. You see kind of like his eyes lose focus and gain focus back, and he nods and says, "This is indeed the blood that we need." Very well. It's very
Mind
simple.
if I ask, Malvoon? You seem to go into some weird focus mode every time you interact with bare blood like that. Are you looking at the properties of the blood? Are you seeing a part of the person's memories or something?
I understand more of the person themselves. It's hard to describe without you being somebody who is trained in certain types of magics, but I gain the ability to know of the person. You can almost see the person. In some cases, you can almost feel the person. But I know more of them if the blood is particularly potent, or if I happen to be in a place or in a moment where the incantation is a bit stronger than usual. I can know more of than just the person, but also of their kin. Unfortunately, you can never look to the side or below. You can only look up. You can only know who it was that provided what made this person, but it doesn't mean that you can use it to know of their siblings or of their children.
I guess that makes sense. Is there anything interesting you can tell us about our dear friend that might be useful to know?
The kind of magics that would be used to sense weaknesses in them, flaws that they might have. Different types of spells require blood that's not been aged as long as it has, or at least been preserved better than this. Less contaminants, and frankly, greater in quantity. This is not enough for me to do that with, and what we have here is going to be what's needed to do what our current task is.
Fair enough. Worth a try.
Nods. The incantation is pretty simple. You made a pact with him. A pact that has potential lingering effects, as you know, as we've discussed beforehand. Effects that others don't necessarily understand, but the two of you do better than others. It's kind of redundant, but he says a few words, turning the blood from like it's kind of like brownish, reddish color into a vibrant blue, as though it was still inside someone's veins. Adds a couple of ingredients to it. The whole thing takes only a couple minutes, and then he hands it to the first person, we'll say Leonard, and says, each of you, a sip, but a small one. There's not much here, and you all must imbibe.
What does it smell like?
It honestly has a very, very, very mild smell. If the other two sniffed it, they wouldn't be able to pick it up. But as being a witcher, you kind of get a smell that it's closer to like grass or dirt than anything else.
Smells healthy.
So you take it's almost like a tasting of the lips more than it is an actual drinking. But you drink it, you feel no effect.
Didn't work.
He gestures for you to pass it to the next.
Yeah, I'll pass it.
Yep, I take mine.
Okay. And Rick does as well.
Yep.
And then passes it over to Tal, who's standing there with his arms crossed, not happy with the situation entirely.
We have to. You realize that's human blood.
It tastes like it.
Are you sure we can? I mean, what if this is a curse?
Malvoon looks to you and says, "With how far we've gone this whole time, how much we've gone through to get where we are, and how invested I know you are in our plans, what benefit would I have to cursing you? I've done it once before to one of you. It's been lifted, and I have no intention of doing so again."
It's really not that bad.
Oh, bloody hell! And he like touches his lips.
And then because of like how little is left inside there, when it comes back to him, he actually grabs like a cotton swab sort of a thing and like actually swabs out the last little remnants that might be on the side of the glass and presses it to his own tongue, so he has it in his body as well. And then he says you'll have to excuse me for a few minutes. And he gets up and he leaves the room and goes into his study, where he's in there for about 10 minutes. The door's shut. He's chanting. You know what I mean? There's some sort of ritual happening.
Could I have detected magic while he was like putting it on the swab? Just to see if the blood itself is magical now?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
And you also could detect magic kind of like looking into the doorway as he's doing that as well. Roll me an Arcana check.
Not 20s, don't fail me now.
Oh, 12. So looking into the doorway, you can see that there's all different types of magics happening inside there. A lot of it actually happens to be, abjuration style magic. So I'm saying abjuration in D&D terms. In Witcher terms, obviously, it's very different. It's that hemiomancy that we had discussed beforehand. And it's more or less kind of like blocks and breaks of what was there beforehand. So you kind of like get this gist, but you don't know what he's saying. You can't really hear it muffled through the door and all that stuff. I imagine you guys have a bit of an awkward conversation, Tal expressing his dislike of this. But with the exception of like the little side conversations or the bits of silence, is there anything important that you guys talk about that you need to bring up and specifically discuss with him? Or do you just kind of like let the time pass?
Just let it pass.
Okay.
I'd ask if he has any books on the political situation.
Most of that stuff's inside of his study, which is where he is.
Okay. So you can't. Yeah.
So he eventually comes back out, like I said, about 10 minutes later, and you guys felt no change along the way. And he comes out and he says, "It's done. After all this time, we finally completed it."
Thank God.
Well, good.
I don't feel any different.
Doesn't matter. It has been done. You wouldn't have noticed if things went awry anyways. You wouldn't have noticed, aside from a keen eye looking back at circumstances that you may have survived to a ripe old age. But where it stands now, the task is done. But there are more tasks that set before us. You need to head to Zadal, of course, and you need to find out exactly where it is that the boy has been taken. As I told you before, I don't know. He hasn't told me. But the boy has been taken somewhere to safety. And
you're gonna give us some kind of mark, I assume, to show him?
No.
Can I use insight to see if he's like on the up and up? Like he's 100% sure that this is like the way this
Sure.
works, and we are good.
Absolutely.
All right,
Cool.
let's go.
Rough.
As a reminder, Bran and Bastion, like if you guys click at the bottom of your Roll20 chat where it says as, and you click the one that has your full character's full name, that'll make it so it rolls with different images on there, like Leonard and Tal have been doing. So anyways, yeah.
I believe we may also be offered a sword bathed in some form of blood.
Yeah. We're gonna get to that in a second. With your natty 1, so you're 6 because you failed so horribly. I'm actually gonna do the flip on you. You actually think he's not being on the up and up. You actually think there might be something there, whereas nobody else does. So you feel like you have a little bit of an insight.
So that basically, I'm assuming, means that I think that the bond is still there to some extent, that we're still bound.
You
think
interpret
he's
it how you
bullshitting
like.
you.
Yeah, you think there's some degree of bullshit as to whether or not it's that or something else. You don't know. Okay, so Tal of course says what he says, and he says, of course we have the payment of that. That will take some time though. As I said before, it takes about a week for us to produce it, and in that week you'll be somebody will be with me the entire time. I have no problem, of course, doing this task for you.
Do we need to do anything for that?
Yes, the person that's going to stay with me for that time is going to be a little indisposed, and it's going to be, I'm going to say, taxing to say the least. But it will be able to complete the process.
Does it involve removing any more of that darn marrow?
Not marrow, but I'm going to get to that shortly. It does involve a considerable amount of blood. A considerable amount. Consistently, daily.
I'm assuming Witcher blood won't work?
Which blood most certainly does.
Dread.
The different source of blood we use will enhance the weapon that you select differently.
I would not ask you to give your blood, Bernard. Knowing that you're not into the idea of giving it.
So you're saying, hold on, so you're saying 3 of us are going to Zabdal, and 1 of us has to stay?
It doesn't necessarily have to be right now, right?
You can certainly visit Zadal first to get the information, and then come back afterwards. Contemplate what you're going to do with the information after you've gathered it.
Could you give us a night to sleep on it?
Certainly, yeah. You can sleep on it.
How dangerous is this?
In my care, you will not die. But if this, never mind the ritual, but the method of drawing and the quantities taken were to be done by someone who doesn't have my abilities, then there would be more dangers involved.
Is there any known effects? Has it been done to your knowledge using a witcher's blood? And are these effects known?
I have never done it with Witcher's blood. I've done it with different types of blood.
Source blood.
Different types.
What's going on? You think something's going on?
I'm considering and trying to decide between the use of my own blood and Bran, because Bran offered.
Well, there is a considerable amount of... It's a weight, because this is not going to be an easy task. It's going to be very taxing to one's body and comfort for the entirety of a week. I promise this won't be pleasant, but it will be successful, and you will come out better in the end. However, if you wish to visit Zadal first, as you had just said that you were interested in, and contemplate who it is, then come back and visit me. I'm going nowhere.
I think we should probably just check in with Sodal, make sure, something hasn't, make sure we can take a week.
Speaking of Sadal, how have your efforts with the saliva been? Have you had any luck with further purifying and potentially magically diluting the saliva without losing its effect.
I'll be honest with you, Brad. I was a little distracted. I had something else that I was working on because the saliva is something that is easily preserved, and so its effects I think will be easier to work with. However, working with somebody's fresh blood and marrow is something that's a little bit more complicated and requires things to be a bit fresh, and so I worked on that instead. I was working on the saliva.
Well, you will be happy to know that we did procure more saliva.
That's certainly good news, and it gives me more to work with.
Yeah, I guess we'll hand that over.
Yep. Okay, you can leave the saliva on the table or whatever for him, and he thanks you and
Uh,
says,
Tal will give him 2 flasks.
out of the 3, gotcha. So, and you guys keep 1. You don't have to discuss with him that you're keeping 1, but I'm pretty sure everybody just gets it. You know what I mean? And
I
so
think we all realize, yeah.
Yeah. And so he says, then at the very least, you should probably gain some rest before you even head to Zadal because you all are weary from the road. And if that night's time you decide before you visit him to come here for this task, that's up to you. Or you can take the time to visit Zadal and come back in a couple of days' time and we'll decide then. But in the interim, there was that one last thing I said to put off, and now we'll speak of the blood and the marrow. And with that, he actually goes over to like a bookcase and opens up a little chest there, and he pulls out a single flask. And this flask has this like purple. The general color to it is purple, but it has this kind of like red swirling hue inside of it that occasionally pulses with a glow. And all of you have seen that red glowing swirl many, many, many times before when Bran uses certain types of his spells. And he produces this thing and holds it and says, I was not able to do anything that would benefit the combating of a basilisk, I don't believe. Or the petrification, I don't believe with this. However, I was able to use the innate properties of source blood, the way that they are able to take magic and to amplify them to a grand degree, and the strengthening properties, the properties of the basilisk, combine them together in a unique way. I honestly don't know what the full effect will be, but I know that whoever it is that chooses to imbibe this, it'll strengthen your blood. It'll strengthen your blood like it has never been before, and I believe it'll be a lasting effect. This comes with a small caveat. While it was you that made the sacrifice in comfort and in actual components, he says to Bran, I don't think that putting source blood back into a source would have much of an effect. Perhaps I'm wrong. But to another, a witcher or a human, and he lets that linger, and he holds it out and says, that's for you to decide, because at the very least, it's a token of appreciation for what you've done for me and us. He holds out the flask for you guys, the vial for you guys.
I'll take it in my hands and look at it, looking at my magical reflection in my blood basically for a while.
Might be useful for Tal.
Disgusting.
I have to say, you've got some mighty pretty blood there.
I wonder what my blood looks like.
That is for you to decide who it's for. But in the meanwhile, I guess we're going to be resolving the situation of the sword after you come back. And I guess we will be speaking soon. So unless there's anything else.
I think probably you could have the deed to your house ready for when we return.
Indeed it will.
See what he did? Best. He said indeed, because it's a deed. Not all bad.
And you
Not
guys,
all bad.
You guys make your way to, I imagine, to a tavern to spend the night. So then, we can make this kind of as a quick meta decision.
I don't fireball Telebast.
Okay. You can make this as a quick meta decision.
No, it's just for
Do you
fun.
guys want to go visit Zadal first and then do the sword afterwards? Kind of finish up the RP and then get the item. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think just a more meta stuff. I'm trying to think what would be cooler, my blood or source blood.
You know, we'll actually make that
We'll
decision.
figure it out.
Yeah, afterwards. You know what I mean? When we come back, we can make that decision. And then I suppose this is more of an in-game conversation. So
Right.
as you guys are sitting around the tavern, we'll imagine those who drink have had a couple of drinks. You're holding, you know, the conversation of Bran's blood actually comes up and who it is that should potentially drink it. He's saying that he doesn't know if it'll have an effect on Bran, and if it is, he doesn't think it's going to be a great one. But he believes it'll have an effect on the other three, but he doesn't know what it would be. So we'll just kind of like flash forward to the point of the night where that comes up in conversation for whoever it was that awkwardly brought it up. I could kind of assume Tal, a few too many drinks in, says, and he wants us to drink more
No
blood.
one's going to drink this blood, right?
Yeah.
I wonder whether it tastes like alcohol.
Well, I
So
think
I would say, you've noticed Dal is once again heavily many drinks in, but at first you notice like an unusual reluctance, like on that first drink. He's like he almost. Oh, and no, he's drinking. Oh, yeah, and that's another. He's drinking.
So, you know, the conversation is brought up. We'll have, I suppose, Bran or Bastion take it from here.
Well, I don't know how interested in drinking it you are or comfortable you are drinking it, but I do think that Tal, you might be the best option as far as that goes.
Why do you think that, Bastion?
Well,
Well,
all our blood's tainted. So, you know,
Not
just to fit in.
tainted, but mutated.
think of it this way. We are witchers. We have abnormally abnormal blood in general. Stronger than most. Source obviously has different blood as well. This would potentially change you and strengthen your blood to our levels.
He's asking you.
Tal slams his fist on the table, looks down. I see what this is about.
Oh shit.
I'm
Listen, Tal, you're
sorry.
just-
I didn't mean to lose to him. I know the blood was important,
I'm gonna
and I
put
know
my-
I hold you all back because I
I'm
can't
putting-
cast fancy magic, and I'm not as fast as you.
But you can throw around a boomerang, and that's enough.
But I've not been traveling with anyone for a long while that I've liked, and I know I call you freaks and mutants because you are.
Listen,
But I'm fond of you, all right, and I'm sorry that I'm not as good as you guys are.
Honestly,
Tal,
I'm gonna
casting
hug Tal.
magic isn't all it's cracked up to
I'm
be.
hugging you.
Tal, now I know
Big meaty men hugging each other.
I know what this is all about, Tal. You're too afraid to drink blood. And that's fine.
I mean, I did it before.
Very
Leonard.
Before it was just, you know, before it was like a tip of the tongue. So
Yeah.
this time it's drinking a whole 2-ounce like vial,
Yeah.
like
if
of magical
a fucking
blood.
shot of blood.
if we really think that this magic blood would go best with you, we could probably find a way to dilute it in some alcohol or something. You could chug it, close your eyes, don't think about it. We can make it fine for you. You don't need to be worried about it.
Chaser.
It's literally what tells you, like a line of shots. You think? You really think I should have it?
You were
If
bashed.
you agree to it,
I'm not drinking that
I do
shit.
think it would have the best chance of producing a proper reaction with your body.
I'll do it. I won't let you guys down again. Not like that.
That's my Tal. I'm gonna clap you on the back. It's not like a soft, like for a normal person, it'd be a hard clap, you know. But for
He's a
you,
meaty boy.
Right. Drinking blood.
Ender, let me get 3 of your strongest shots.
He
Make it schnapps. because it's like schnapps and snappy. Get it? I'm so fucking funny. Oh.
Does that hurt anybody else as much as it hurts me?
I love it.
He doesn't get fireballed again.
So they get the drinks or whatever it is, and you were able to take the shot. Now here's the important thing. I need you to make me a Constitution save.
Oh, boy.
There's technically no failing, but it is important what you roll.
What's your sense it? What's your sense it?
Here comes the 91.
No matter what it is, what's your sense it? You're gonna be a god.
If only we enhance ability it.
Oof.
You gotta what's your sense.
Oh God! Why am I rolling so badly?
You
You
have
have
to-
a really strong effect as a result.
10. He rolls a 10.
Freak.
And we lost the Witcher sense.
Okay. So when you took that potion, when you drank it, so I had a different effect lined up for each different PC that had on it, and I actually had an effect lined up for Bran as well. It was a very different one. When you drink this and it like sits in your gut, it's one of those things where almost immediately you're like, I gotta have a shit, and like you go into the bathroom and this thing kind of
Wait, take the shots with you. Oh, he's gone.
you go in there and you like, you just kind of like purge for a minute, and it's like it sits heavy on your stomach. It's not like it just sits super heavy on your stomach, and you can literally feel it coursing out through your stomach and absorbed into your system. And like you look at your arms and you're in like the shitter, and like you look at your arms, you can see like the magical blood coursing through your veins. You actually see it like filling you up, and then eventually like it pulses and it burns and it hurts, but like you're drunk, so it kind of like makes it both worse, but we'll tamper it down for memory in the future. But eventually it just kind of like settles in, and for you, since you chose to drink it, it gives you the feat tough.
Oh, what's that? Extra HP?
It's you gain 2 times your level in HP, and every time you gain a level, you get 2 times your level again. So you get 2 more health points. So more or less, you gain plus 10 HP right now, and an additional 2 every time you level. So
Wow.
God,
welcome.
Witcher now.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Wow, we should take more of his, but we should just knock him out, chain him up, and milk him.
So I will say that if it went to Bastion, you were actually going to get the durable feat.
What does that do?
+1 con, and when you roll HD to regain hit points, the minimum number of hit points you gain is equal to twice your Constitution modifier.
Shit.
So you can't gain any less than 4, which is like one of those like, okay, cool. So it's like, but the +1 con was a big thing for you. And for Bran, it was going to give him immunity to petrification forevermore.
Oh.
So no other.
I had a feeling it would be something like, oh yeah, it's basilisk related.
Yep. And for Messi, I actually was going to have it harden Messi's actual flesh to be a bit more like stone, and then give him a flat +1 AC. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fucking creepy
That
looking.
would have been like really disgusting.
But your character's already the disgusting one, so that's cool.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to be more fucked up. He wants to be less fucked up.
It would have been almost like a punishment for your character having like, I hate mages and I'm going to drink mage blood. So, but flat +1 AC, which is sweet because that's a fighter ability. All right, so anyways,
When he's in there, I'm probably like turning to like while he's dealing with that, since that topic is kind of changed, I am going to like point out to the party like, guys, I think I'm not 100% sure that we broke the bond. We might still be bound by that contract.
I don't know. He seemed pretty sure. What makes you think it?
I don't know, something about it he just rubbed me the wrong way when
That doesn't happen very often.
it doesn't happen.
I did actually check the vial that he put on the blood that he put on the cloth. It was magical, so
Well,
something definitely happened, and he was definitely casting hemiomancy while in his study.
Sure of it. And
I trust him.
if you're certain, I'll take your word
I
for
can
now.
never be certain unless I know the specific school of magic, but
Mhm.
given the circumstance, I am pretty much as certain as I can be.
Well, I guess we'll know if any bad karma comes our way.
Well, we
Figure
wouldn't
that
really know while alive, I suppose. Although, would we really care if we died and then turned into a wraith, like the old folk tales?
Mm. I probably would. But that's just because
Let's be honest, you wouldn't be conscious enough to care.
they never seem to be.
So the
You know,
next.
Go ahead.
No,
Sorry,
no.
I'll just. I was just gonna say, you never really know when they're in the same room as you, lurking, just watching from the shadows. They really can be quite the stealthy bunch. They could be.
I'm looking at my medallion.
They could be in this very room.
It's trembling because you're drunk.
It's trembling because Bran's there.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Ah!
So the next day, you guys notice that you guys head out and making your way. Again, Bastion has a bit of a smile. Oh, actually, roll me a flat charisma check, Bastion.
All right, let's go.
Flat charisma. Flat charisma.
Bastion's got a bit of a frown. Things didn't go well for him last
Aw.
night. Unless he wants to shell out gold. Things didn't go well for him last night. Bran is, he's got those books that he's kind of looking forward into to reading or whatever. He's probably been kind of looking to get to the dwarven books soon, but hasn't yet.
There are
because...
two tiny things of note I would have asked Malvoon about. One would be the megascope, and the other would be a book on politics.
That's why I said, did you want to talk to him about? You can mental note those things for the future. You'll talk to him about that next time, because you'll come back and you're going to spend whoever's blood it is easily going to be there for a week, so you can talk to him when you get back.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow.
So when you make your way there, so you notice that he's a little downtrodden. Tal is honestly a little distracted because Tal is like, you feel stronger, tougher than you ever have. Like you feel like it's one of those things where if you've ever seen the movie Limitless, like they take the drug and they just seem like, I have never felt so alive. You know what I mean? Like you feel more emboldened, like Superman discovering his powers for the first time. You to some degree are getting into your head, maybe this is what it's like to feel like a witcher. Like you just feel quicker reflexes. Again, as a reminder to those that are a part of it, the way I do health points, it's not always just you take a hit and this is how much you can take. It's also narrative health points, like the blow narrowly misses you, so you feel your reflexes are enhanced. All these amazing abilities to use. So you're a bit distracted as you're kind of like feeling through your own body, feeling different. You even feel as though you came off your hangover so much easier than you usually do.
Oh no, you're gonna have to spend so much more on alcohol now.
How many hit? Do I have to roll hit dice to like heal myself and stuff like that?
Technically, yes. Yeah.
How many do I get overnight?
You heal half your level in hit dice. Other people heal 1. So, and the only way you heal health points is by spending hit dice. So you have to roll hit dice to heal.
Yeah, but at level 5, would that be 2 hit dice I get
You
back?
heal 2 overnight. Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna roll 2.
But honestly, because multiple days have passed, you're just at full health.
Oh, okay.
Because literally 3 nights have passed, so you're good. So you guys are and then you see like the other one, Messi, is also Leonard is also a little bit distracted as he is kind of getting on his horse and seems a bit focused and is going. Everybody has kind of like their own things going on in their minds as you guys are hopping on your steeds and riding back to Zadal. Steeds that you borrowed to go to whatchamacallit and come back. So I guess technically we have to sidestep for a moment. Do you buy 2 more horses? Or do you hope to turn one of them back from stone and just buy 1 more horse?
Well, it's gonna get fucking turned to stone by Chad anyway. 'Cause we're not allowed to have money.
How much money do we have? I have 18 gold.
But Bran holds most of the party gold.
I have
I do-
236. I think I have the most right now.
I do still have a flask of that basilisk saliva.
I think it's
sure
just... Please.
I'm not sure if a flask would be enough for a horse.
It would. You kind of know, like, it would just fix one person. You know what I mean? But
yeah, but person... Never mind.
No, you're fine. I
I'm as
understand
big
the
as a
dimensions.
horse.
So, or so he tells us. So you guys, it's 75 gold per. I'll allow a persuasion check to try to reduce that if you'd like. But 75
Yeah,
gold
I'll try
per.
a persuasion check to try and smooth talk it.
Okay.
Don't fuck it up. Don't fuck
You
it up.
fucked it up.
So it ends up, instead of being the 150, you spend 140 gold, and you can get 2 more horses. And so now we have Neil's amazing horse, 2 average horses, and Brand's twisted leg horse. Okay.
No, mine died.
Oh, yours died. Okay. Which one's
It
still?
died?
We lost the second. That was the second horse we lost, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, yours
Tal's
is
horse
killed.
against
Yours
stone.
is killed by the. Yeah, that's right. It's not Tal's horse at stone. It's actually Bastion's horse at stone. The good
Oh,
horse.
okay.
So
It's
2
Bastion's
average.
horse
So,
that's
so
stone.
so we have 3 average horses, and 1, and because Messi's wasn't messed with. 3 average
No.
horses and Tal's horse and Dune. All right, so you guys make your trek over to
Oh,
Zadal.
you remembered his name. He doesn't remember any PC's name, but he remembers the horse. He's like, yeah, he's called
Good
Duke.
name.
Come on, he's a horse.
You guys make your way to Zadal, and it's a pretty easy trek, same as it has been back and forth 100 times and da 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 da.
Yeah.
You make your way to Zadal, and you go meeting up with him. One of the things that you can see is that despite how long you've been, Oban is still in the cell. But you go to meet with him in
Good.
his meeting chamber as you have beforehand. The 5 other people still set in stone, and so others are kind of like, there's mixed feelings about you guys at this point, because it's partially you're kind of taking blame for the basilisk, but you're also saving things. There's a lot of mixed feelings, more extreme
Great,
than
more
they were
people will
before.
hate Bran.
It's just more extreme than it was before, but pretty much the same lines. So you guys meet with him in his chamber, and he sits down, and unlike all the times before, the boy is no longer behind him, right? So, and the woman that's behind you guys, and always has been beforehand, his other daughter, she is, beforehand, she just kind of stood there and stood guard, right? But now she actually has a weapon out, like she had like a
Is
weapon.
this Iga?
But yes, she's like very aggressive in her defending of the area as you guys are in it. So you guys go into the room and you sit down, and you can feel that like palpable aggression coming off of her. And when he sits with you and says, "Welcome again to my camp, as it stands. Though I have to admit, I don't imagine we'd be staying here much longer. It's time for us to move on and engage in the next phase of our plan."
Indeed. We return with good news.
I'm glad.
Malvoon said he was able to successfully sever the bond.
That's good news indeed. It means that we can move forward without hesitation on what it is that we need to do. So, very well. With Mavoon's word, I trust it, of course. Let us go on with the more details. We had discussed beforehand, and I imagine it was frustrating a bit for you and how vague we were and what our plans are. I want you to know that we don't intend to approach this with just the hopes that saying or somewhat proving someone has the bloodline and they'll be able to succeed. We intend to push things forward in a way that would kind of force the hands of the Redanians to accept things as they are. First and foremost, the boy. You're going to have to know where he is, because you're going to want to confront him yourself. I'm not telling you that you must. I just know that this is what I imagine you intend to do. So he has been pushed off. I'm just trying to get the map up, and I forgot where to do that. So I think it's this one. Witcher. There it is. Sorry. Open the map for me, please. There we go. He has... Where are you guys? Serious? Just north of there. He has been relocated to another camp. Actually, this one... It nauseates me to say this, but it's very much to the west of here. It's actually in the Brokalon Forest. It happens to be a camp that is held by some elves. These elves are actual Scoia'tael, through and through. We use the banner of Scoia'tael and what benefits it brings us. But I'm sure you've gathered from either previous experiences versus this one, or rumors and the like, that we do not operate like the others tend to. This is a more traditional Scoia'tael camp, with more traditional ideals and more aggressive methods. Actively aggressive methods. Now, they do not attack anyone in the nearby, because they are set well into Temeria And so, even though they see Temerians as being the enemy as well, they are willing to play nice in the interim. So, when you go there, proceed cautiously. You have amongst you seemingly 4 humans. I understand that witchers and sorcerers are different, but that doesn't necessarily mean they will believe it that way. And certainly one of you is, in fact, a human. Be wary. I'll have the coordinates set out for you, directions to get there. But those are going to be directions that you'll find not here, but in the town of Dorian. When you go to Dorian, you'll find a man there. He works as a bit of a barback, or someone that helps the local tavern. Runs and grabs ale from down below and fetches it and the like. He's a bit daft, a bit slow. Even dwarves, if they take hard enough of a blow to the head, can have lasting effects. He's not all there, but trustworthy. You will speak with him and he'll give you the directions. When you speak with him, you just simply need to tell him that you care for Carius and all the dwarven people. He knows to respond to that.
Like a secret code?
Speaking of
He
the
nods.
dwarven people, while in Craig and settling some of the local troubles the Lord has found himself in, me and Leonard uncovered some very interesting books that might be to your interest.
Perhaps, but let's not deviate from the important conversation here. I told you that we have a plan to get the Redanians to agree. I do apologize, especially considering the words that I just said, but you're going to have to accept this for what it is, because of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. You can't have a revolution without a bit of a strong arm situation. Does everybody here understand what the primary export, what the actual gold of Redania is?
Religion.
He shakes his head. No. Their gold literally grows from the ground. It's wheat. Redania has some of the most fertile fields, and they grow far and they grow wide. They grow more wheat than anywhere else in the northern kingdoms. They use it to support their farmers, their people, their crown, their nobles that oversee those that reap their lands. They use it to exports to have value in the commerce to the nations about them. Their gold, their export is wheat. And we have been amassing some of the strongest liquors that we can produce for some time. And they've been being distributed into Redania in the appropriate areas where these liquor that would destroy the belly of a lesser man and certainly give wince to a mighty dwarf, will be split open among the fields and fires lit.
That's insane. Do you realize how many people will die? If we have a bad winter this year, it's not just Redania that would suffer, Temeria as well.
As the dwarves and the elves and everyone else has suffered for a very, very long time. It is a threat, but not an idle one, that we intend to use to have influence on the Redanian nobles when they see that their own lives, and it has to be so extreme that it impacts their lives, because they don't care. A few hundred, maybe even a few thousand commoners die. They don't care. But if we were able to impact even the quality of their own lives, they would hear differently. The Redanian nobles would be forced to listen if their fields burn, all of them. If their stores burn, because Where they hold their wheat, they also hold other things that they prize. Small bits of ale filtered here and there. Things that have been put about to hold for winter, to keep one warm in the coldest of nights. Everything having its own little way or person nearby to cause the ignition. Will it be a uniform, sudden success? No. But I'll have you know, with however many lives it costs on both sides, almost all of them, if not all of them, will go up. And the stores will be destroyed, and the fields will be ruined. Again, it's just meant to be a threat, but it's not an idle one. That's our card that we play. That's how we force their hands on a way that negatively impacts them. But there's more than that. There are a few Temerian nobles that have allies over in Redania, and I use that term very loosely. And when I say few, I mean very. They have not said that they will aid, but they're on the fence and need an appropriate nudge. Unfortunately, we don't have representation in the court, someone to convince them to lend aid, to work with the Redanians, to speak to them, to put the poison in their ear so that they can change their ways. I don't expect any one of us knows somebody directly that has the ability to do that to a Redanian lord, but there are Temerian lords that have relationships. We need to work through them. I can tell you who these lords are, but I do not know somebody who understands courtship well. Or at least I should say, I didn't. I've had conversations back and forth with Malvoon. He's unique in his abilities. And one of those abilities is how he can look into people by seeing their blood, and sometimes by a simple touch. And he has looked into, and he looks to Bastion, you, and has seen your lineage. He hasn't had a clean enough sample to look farther than one step. But your father is a man of influence. Did you know that?
Wishers never remember that.
I couldn't tell you I knew that much.
Your father is a man of influence.
How much influence?
He, settles back and he looks to you guys and says a name. He goes by the name of Lord Kaival Dahlum. And it's one of those things where this isn't a name that exists in the books or the games or anything like that. For anybody here that knows history, and you can all roll a history check.
I'll roll to see if like a peasant would have heard of him. Maybe he was my local lord or whatever.
You said it was Kaival Velhum?
Delhoon.
These beautiful rolls that we are pulling out.
I'm waiting for one person.
That's me.
Funny enough, none of you guys have a clue who that is. Literally falls on deaf ears. And so, like, when he did this dramatic sit back and tells you, it's like...
We're all like...
Yeah, I'm probably just like, a lord.
Is that someone important? I don't... Any of you guys...
Yeah. We who hasn't heard of him, right?
He kind of slight exasperated sigh. Like, not big, not like he's not like a big, but a very slight one. Kind of fell.
He was hoping for a different response.
Yep, and he says, yes, he has a lot of influence, but most importantly, his influence is with that over trade.
I see.
I imagine that
So,
is...
setting aside the knife that you aim to hold in the back of the Redanians, you wish to try to influence the Redanians through certain Temerians to try and gain sympathetic allies.
Is
Yes.
Lord Kaival of Temeria?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, there is one more final detail that I think is important, because I don't think that you are all completely on board for this, because I think we all know what the Scoia'tael are, and what I certainly sound like at the moment. We all know that as long as there are extremists on either side, it's going to make humble living, copacetic living, difficult in the center. It pains me to say this. Those that have been put in place to make this action happen, the burning of the field, so on and so forth, they are Scoia'tael, of course. Mostly elves, unfortunately. But also come from the most extreme groups. Hearing the plan, they were chopping at the bit. And very often I get reports, not directly, but as they filter throughout, with people wanting to just take the action now, even though not all the pieces are in motion. Even if not all their bits are set, they just want to hurt them. So, those that will be punished on this side will be those that perhaps you believe deserve it to begin with. Perhaps we can eliminate the extremes on both sides.
You're telling me that although these people might deserve it, you're willingly sending them to slaughter.
Like anybody in a position of power does when they give an order for troops to march on a field. Yeah, I'm playing the role of a commander.
It sounds to me like these elves were quite happy to volunteer for these assignments as well.
They were. Let's be frank, I'm painting you a picture because it fits my narrative, but it's not an inaccurate one. Final detail. Who rules Redania? The boy's too young. There will still need to be regents to the throne that can groom him. Those regents should be Redanian nobles, as it always has been. And I will take no part in the Redanian regime. I intend to live my life as a peasant, if I even survive all of this. I don't want to take some role as a general or whatever medals could potentially be given. I'm not looking for glory. I'm looking to end this.
Sounds to me like you just don't want to be part of the blame.
Perhaps
If he
there's a
ends
little
up
bit
on
of
the
that
losing
too.
side, he will get blamed regardless.
He does respond saying, you know, again, perhaps there's a little bit of that as well, but there's a risk. We all risk in much. Consider that my reward.
Noble of you.
Who
Let's
would
not
serve
forget
as
that we were originally sent here to dispose of this camp, after all.
Are there Redanian nobles that you would trust to serve as the regent?
I do not know any Redanian nobles at all. Reputation. And those reputations are from the mouths of the extremes. And so I do not know what's true and what isn't. But it's not my place to choose which regents should sit there. That should be set by Redanian law. Just as the boy should sit on the throne by Redanian law.
And what if the boy forgets what you taught him and listens to these regents, whether they be particularly good-willed for Redanians or not? You're still not going to get what you want.
When you rush a field of battle, you trust the archers not to hit you with their bow.
It's a risk.
Except in this case, the field's burning. And there's archers on the other side as well.
Speaking of the boy,
To that, he gives a very uncharacteristic shrug.
so uncharacteristic of
You
him.
mentioned before that you haven't told the boy of his lineage. Is that still the case?
Jun Run has been involved in this more than perhaps she wanted to. And now that is her task. Deliver him safely, report his value, and inform him. She'll continue on for a little while at the camp to make sure that he's seen to correctly. But let's be serious. Everybody has their own goals in life, and it's not hers to become the pets to our cause any more than she already has.
Yes,
She'll see to
which
it,
is-
but I don't even know if she'll continue to be there when you arrive.
Witches do like their neutrality. I look at Leonard while saying that.
I shrug.
At least you finally filled the boy in on what is to happen.
He will be when he reaches there and things play out. As of this day, I don't know if he has. But I think that concludes all the information that I've been holding from you until this point. And I'm sure there's a lot to think about. And hopefully it doesn't waver your decisions. But books. Let's turn our attention to something perhaps a little bit lighter.
Yes.
Physically lighter, yes. Much less weight there.
And as he says books, turn our attention to something physically lighter. Why don't we take our next break? We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
What?
A whole hour has passed, but we have 2 more to go. So we'll see everybody very shortly.
Yeah, I let my dog-
Bye!
Bye.